Be grateful that you woke up, you're breathing, and you're ready to start, a new day. Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Art of Ronin Leadership podcast. This is your host, Mike Howard, and it's always a pleasure to be able to come to you and talk to you about all things leadership, and hopefully that you'll get something out of these podcasts that we've been doing. I'm actually doing this podcast now the Monday after Thanksgiving. So for those of you living in the United States, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. My wife Janice and I were blessed to be able to travel to North Carolina and visit our grandkids and our daughter and our son-in-law. So that was a wonderful trip. And before that, we were able to actually attend an event in San Francisco from the Omega watch company. Those of you who know me know I'm a watch nut. And Omega is my favorite, or our favorite brand, I should say. I kind of co-opted Janice after we got married, and so now she's a big Omega fan as well. But we had a great time there, so it was a really nice holiday break. And so I took a break from podcasting. And as we were flying back from North Carolina, I was, thinking about what topics I want to talk about in the next few weeks. As now we're into the holiday season all around the world. By the way, before we get going any further, if you like the content on this podcast, please hit the subscribe button on the screen, and also make sure that you give us some comments and feedback on our previous podcasts so that we can continue to improve. Part of leadership is continuous improvement, as you all know. So please keep the feedback coming, and we really appreciate your engagement in this podcast. Anyway, flying back from North Carolina, and just thinking about what to think about. And I took a book with me. I wasn't able to read a whole lot of it, but it's given to me by a good friend of mine. We were both in CIA together, and the book is called Warrior of the Light, and it's by Paulo Coelho, and it really talks about the attributes of warriors, and the kind of things that warriors think about and prepare for when they go into battle. But one of the things that struck me was a passage in the book, and I'll read it to you. It said, "The warrior of the light concentrates on the small miracles of daily life. He is capable of seeing what is beautiful because he carries beauty within himself. For the world is a mirror and gives back to each man the reflection of his own face. The warrior knows his faults and limitations, but he does all he can to maintain his good humor in moments of crisis. The world is, after all, doing its best to help him, even though everything around him seems to be saying the opposite." And then I was thinking about something else. And, whether you're a Christian or not, and my wife and I are, but whether you are or not, there is a passage from the Bible, 1 Thessalonians 5:18, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ for you." So it kind of struck me that Thanksgiving is over, but what does the ability to be thankful mean in the context of leadership? We've talked about leadership in many ways on this podcast. We've talked about what are the values of a leader. How is a leader become a leader? Are they born? Do they grow into it? And what are the attributes that make up a great leader, as opposed to a manager or someone that just gets the job done but doesn't really care about the welfare of the people they are entrusted to lead? But when it gets back to you as a leader, I think one of the things that is important is for your ability to be thankful. Be thankful for the small things, as it said in the Warrior of the Light, right? And to make sure that as you are going about your business, running your line of business, you have the right attitude in terms of being thankful for any number of things. Now, we all know that in any particular line of business, every day is not going to be sunny days and roses, right? In my job as chief security officer and with the team that I led, that we were always dealing with some kind of crisis at some point. Wasn't every day, but when it came hard. But there were always the daily issues of running security for a global company like Microsoft. A lot of my colleagues in the field, as chief security officers, know what I'm talking about, where there's always some threat of violence against somebody in the company. There's always a theft here. There's always something going on in the world that's going to affect the conduct of your company's business, and therefore you have to make sure you're involved and being proactive in helping to mitigate any threats to your company, whether you're in the United States or you're global. And then there's, you take the in my case, the security side, my hat off. We have the daily pressures of personnel issues and managing budgets and trying to get headcount and dealing with politics and all the different kinds of things that you do when you are in a leadership position. And so there are a lot of factors in the world and in your daily business life that can weigh on a person, especially if you're in a leadership position, because you are responsible. You're responsible for a lot of people. You're responsible for an organization to make sure the organization runs smoothly and gets its stated objectives done. You have a lot on the plate. And you can get to the point where if you let your mind get there, or let your heart get there, you could get to the point where it becomes a grind, right? It's no longer fun. Or you neglect to think about, as Warrior of the Light talked about, or as the passage from the Bible talked about, thinking about the things throughout the day that you're thankful for to help keep your spirits uplifted, but also keep the spirits of your team uplifted. One of the things that we've talked about before on this podcast is that a lesson that a lot of leaders, especially younger leaders, don't get, is that your team, they're always looking at you, in the sense that they're watching how you comport yourself, how you conduct yourself, how you react to stressful situations, how you react to the daily grinds of the day. And it doesn't mean that every day you're going to be sitting there in a lotus pose meditating in your office and all the cares of your day are going to be gone. That's not the point, right? We live in a world that is you turn on the news, there's always something bad happening. Right now, the latest in the news is everybody's worried about this latest variant of the coronavirus, Omicron, I think they call it, came out of South Africa. And, again, there's just market turmoil, there's political divisions, we can go on and on and on. And then you've got to conduct business. And what I think is, one of the things I tried to do when I was chief security officer, or even when I worked at the CIA and I was in leadership positions, was, and it didn't happen every day. Some days you're just on the move so much, you don't have time to breathe, you're kind of moving and grooving everywhere. But more times than not, I would try to find one or two things in that day to think about, be thankful for. And you'll be amazed at how much that can help you in the middle of a pretty stressful day, in the middle of a day where you've got some hard meetings that you're dealing with, or you've got some, pressures from your boss, or whatever those situations are, to sit back for a second and think about the things you're thankful for. Thankful for the fact that you are gainfully employed and have a job. Now, I know in today's world, we've got a thing called the Great Resignation, right? Post-pandemic, even though we're still in a pandemic area, but say post just general lockdown, we have a lot of people that have not returned back to work, or we have people that were working and decided they didn't want to work anymore for any number of reasons. And that's a separate issue. We're not going to get into that. But to be thankful that you have a job when there are probably people out there looking for work and can't find it, even though there are a lot of jobs out there, right? You have to be qualified and et cetera, et cetera. And so in the midst of a really pressure-filled day, sitting back and thinking about the fact that, I got a lot of pressures going on. There's a lot of stuff happening, but I get a paycheck, and and I'm able to put food on the table. You may have a job where it gives you health benefits. And if you have a family, then be thankful that you have health benefits, that you are able to see a doctor when you need to get preventative health care, that your kids and your spouse are able to also be or avail themselves of the health care that you receive from your work. I mean, it's important. And a lot of times I think we take those kind of things for granted. How'd you get to work? If you drove a car, be thankful that you have a car to drive. There are some people that they can't afford a car, or something happened to their car and they're having to take public transportation. Now, they should be thankful that they can afford public transportation, or that there is public transportation. But my point is, be grateful that you have a vehicle that will take you to work, right? Be thankful for your health. I mean, it's not a cliche. That is the most important thing. That is, without your health, there's nothing. Everything kind of pales in comparison, right? So, be grateful that you're healthy enough to be at work. You're healthy enough to get up out of bed in the morning, hopefully without a whole lot of aches and pains. But be grateful that you woke up, you're breathing, and you're ready to start, a new day. Be thankful for the team that you are given the responsibility of overseeing. Yes, being a leader can obviously have a lot of headaches. You are going to find the personnel issues that you're going to have to deal with HR. You're going to find sometimes infighting amongst your team members that you're going to have to mitigate and take care of. You're going to find polarizations, whether within your team, in terms of resources. One team says they need this, another team says they also need this. Your job is to kind of decide from a ROI perspective and a business strategy perspective what's the most pressing issue and which team to give that to. All these things come into play. But then you can step back and be thankful that you have a team. And if you've done your due diligence as a leader, despite any infightings you may have, you have good subject matter experts that can drive your programs, your strategy. And I think that's very important, that to be thankful for team, for that you have been given the responsibility to have a team. What you do with that team, that's, we've been talking about this in this podcast for a while now, because there are people that have teams that do nothing with those teams, don't really care about developing their teams, and again, that's another subject. But having a team that can drive your strategies, that's very, very important. I think it's important also to be thankful for any successes that you have. If you're driving towards a particular strategic goal and you make that goal, it's great to be thankful that you were able to do that. It's important. Don't immediately go on and look towards the next thing. I know I always talk about what got you here won't get you there, and that's true. But take the time to savor victories that you have. Like when we first developed our interconnected G-Socks around the world, way back when, that was a celebration. And we took the time to celebrate years and years of grinding it out, hard work, and trying to get to where we could be a world-class program, leveraging our G-Socks. That was a victory worth celebrating. So don't neglect your victories. And some of the victories could be small. right? It could be very small. You made a great hire in your organization. You were looking to fill in a gap because someone left or someone went to or whatever, found another place of employment, maybe what they thought to be better opportunities, and you need to fill in this critical gap, and you filled it with someone that really is good and will hopefully propel your programs higher. Well, guess what, sports fans? That's worth celebrating, right? So I think it's important to be thankful for that. Be thankful if you have friends and family, right? Friends and family are often the ones that get you through a lot of hard times. When the pressure is on at work, you come home and it may be weighing on you. I know my wife and I, we talk about this every so often. You know, those of you know Janet, she was a flight attendant. A very stressful job. And she enjoyed the work very much, but during the time she's doing the work, it can be very stressful, dealing with passengers and just making sure everybody's safe and secure. But when she landed, she didn't have to take that home with her, right? She could because she didn't have to worry about it till the next time she set foot on a plane. There are a lot of us, especially in the enterprise world, where you come home, and as much as you try to, in the back of your recesses of your brain, there's always something going on regarding work, right? You're thinking about the next day or the next week or a deadline or something that you're gonna have to deal with very soon, personnel-wise or budget-wise. But having family and friends to support you during those times, you can bounce things off of, and sort of get some independent feedback or just being able to be under a roof in a warm house, apartment, condo, what have you. Those are things to be thankful for, right? The point I'm trying to make is that when your troops look at you, right? They look at you at every aspect of how you conduct yourself, not just professionally, but how you deal with life itself in the realm of business. If you're always acting stressed or annoyed, or they never hear you say thank you to them for the job that they're doing, which is really vitally important, and you need to make sure you do that accordingly. But if they don't see you have an attitude of thankfulness for the position you're in my case, Chief Security Officer, I was very thankful to be in that position. And I was grateful to the opportunities it presented to me when I went into different associations and attained leadership positions there, and made some wonderful friends and colleagues, lifelong friends and colleagues to this day that we trust with our lives. And also at CIA, the warriors, men and women that I work with at CIA, who we, at times we risked our lives in the protection of our country, lifelong friends, thankful for their friendship, thankful for having my six when bad things happen. And so if they're watching you, if your team, your troops are watching you, then make sure you're mindful about being thankful. Thanking them, but also showing through your words, your deeds, and how you conduct yourself that you are thankful for things that are happening throughout the day. The little victories, the health that you have, the opportunity to do great things in whatever line of business you're in, the ability to earn a living. You don't ever take that for granted, And so these are things that are important. It's not just important during Thanksgiving period or during the holiday season when people tend to be a lot nicer. You got a lot of lights up for Christmas and great meals and parties. And, obviously the holiday season is a joyous time for most everybody around the world where you can kind of, maybe decompress a little bit after a long grind of a year. And for a short period of time, just enjoy family, friends, parties, good food, presents, trees, beautiful decorations. That's all good, and you should do that. You should revel in that. But come January, are you going to have that same attitude of thankfulness when the mid-year budget comes in and you're told that for the next fiscal year you have to cut X percent, or you need to cut X amount of headcount if it goes that way, or you're dealt with a particularly bad personnel issue, or a business situation that is kind of didn't go the right way. That's when your ability to be thankful on certain occasions will be tested, right? And I can't say I always passed the test, but I can say I gave it the good old college try more often than not, and tried to be able to take a step back, even in the midst of a crisis, and find something to be thankful for. In the midst of a crisis, sometimes I would think, no matter whatever was happening, right, we needed to evacuate people from a certain area. A hurricane knocked out one of our data centers. There was a bombing somewhere, and we had to see if any of our people were hurt, or there was a shooting somewhere. Whatever the situation was, at least I could be thankful for the fact that we had a great crisis management structure set up, processes and procedures, and the right people to manage it. That if the higher ups asked questions, we had the team and it was a collective team, not just security, but we had PR and HR, internal comms, and real estate and facilities, all of our partners, IT, security, who could help us collate the information and get it up to the higher ups, so one version of the truth. Be thankful for that, because there are a lot of entities that don't have that. And besides having to manage the problem, they got to deal with, well, how do we get this done? Or where's Joe, or where's Jane for this particular crisis? We were set up, as a lot of my colleagues are in this industry as well. So, I just think, even in the midst of bad things happening, you can be somewhat thankful. And you want the crisis to end, but you can be thankful you have the tools and the people to manage that crisis. So, Ryan, that's just kind of, a thought. And I thought also apropos, those of you, I don't know if a lot of you probably do watch the show Ted Lasso, and it's on Apple TV. We became fans of it earlier this year. And one of the things I love about the show is that the protagonist, Ted Lasso, is played by Jason Sudeikis. He's always very positive, and he's thankful, right? And we got this shirt, be curious, not judgmental. But he's a very thankful person, even in the midst of bad things happening. He tries to maintain positivity, recognize people, be thankful for the situation that he's in, even if he's losing games, playing soccer in the UK as a coach. He's grateful for the position that he was given, and that he has the opportunity to mold and shape these young soccer players into the kind of team that they can be, right? And so, if you want a shot of thankfulness, go watch Ted Lasso, but also take a look at the world around you. Take a look at your own ecosystem. One or two things a day. Sit back and say, I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that. And then get right back into the fray and deal with all the stuff that you have to deal with. One of the things that about this podcast that we'll never sugarcoat anything. Business is hard. And if you're in a leadership position, it's doubly hard. And there are going to be days when you don't really feel like being thankful. Like you just got your butt kicked somehow, right? And you're heading home, and you don't feel like there's a whole lot to be thankful for. Maybe you felt like the higher ups were not grateful, or they don't respect what you and your team do, or despite all the successes, one mistake and they kind of jam you for it, or whatever the situation is. But just take a look at that as a microcosm, and then take a deep breath. Colin Powell who unfortunately passed away recently, always had a saying in one of his 13 rules of leadership that it will look better in the AM, and it will, right? It will look better in the AM. You can always find something to be thankful for. Always, in any situation. And you think about the great leaders in history, the pressures that they all had, they were always able to find something to be grateful for. And so that's my challenge to you, that let's take 1 week, all right? Let's take 1 week, and every day, sometime during the day, write down 1 or 2 things that you are thankful for. I'd love to hear the things that you wrote down that 1 week. I'll join you. I'll be doing that as well. Start today, right? And and then I want to know from you, not only did you write it down, but how did it make you feel that day or the next day? Did it change anything despite any bad things happening at work or pressures that you're dealing with? Did it help? Did it help at all? I hope it does. It should. Every person's different, but just try it. Let's see what happens. I think, in fact, I almost guarantee that if you have an attitude of thankfulness and just delineating 1 or 2 things that you are thankful for in your life that day, it will put a perspective on that day that will help you get through the pressures of that particular day. So that's all I have for this week. It is actually Cyber Monday. So being that I've got stuff to do from a work perspective, but I will be getting online and doing some Cyber Monday shopping. I joke with Janice that it typically in a lot of enterprises, Cyber Monday, especially when people were physically in the office, wasn't always the most productive day because people needed to be online. It might be easier that a lot of people working remotely, but we're retired, and so we don't have those pressures, thank goodness. So in any case, again, please hit the subscribe button. Give us some feedback on our previous podcasts, and when this one is released on this one. Let's do this exercise together for 1 week, 7 days, right? 7 days, 1 or 2 things that you're thankful for. Share it with me, share it with everybody else, and also tell us how or if it changed your attitude or made your day somewhat better despite the circumstances. Remember, the circumstances don't dictate how you react to those circumstances. You have control over how you react to the inevitable bad things happening either at work or in life. It's your attitude. And a lot of that attitude, it has to be based on being thankful. Even in the midst of something bad happening, you must and can and will be able to find something to be thankful for. So until next time, have a wonderful week. This is the Art of Ronin Leadership Podcast. This is Mike Howard signing off. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and be thankful.